Welcome back to This Day in Irish History. I'm your host, Raymond Welsh. Before we dive into today's story, if you'd like to explore other significant events that happened on this day in Irish history, visit thisdayirishhistory.com. The link is in the episode description. Now, let's journey back to April 7th, 1926, when a Dublin-born aristocrat named Violet Gibson made a startling and nearly successful attempt to assassinate Italian dictator Benito Mussolini in the heart of Rome. Violet Albina Gibson was no ordinary figure. Born in 1876 into a prominent Anglo-Irish family, she was the daughter of Edward Gibson, the first Baron Ashbourne and a former Lord Chancellor of Ireland. Raised amidst privilege and expectation, Violet's early life offered few hints of the dramatic turn it would later take. Educated in elite circles and well-travelled, she was drawn increasingly to intellectual pursuits, spiritual inquiry, and eventually religious mysticism. In her early 20s, she converted from Protestantism to Roman Catholicism, an unusual step for someone of her background, but one that foreshadowed her growing detachment from the conventional world of politics and high society. By the time she reached her late 40s, Violet's life was marked by tragedy and mental illness. She suffered from repeated breakdowns and spent time in various asylums and hospitals. But despite her fragility, or perhaps because of it, she became obsessed with the growing menace of fascism. Watching Mussolini rise from revolutionary firebrand to authoritarian strongman deeply disturbed her. To Violet, the Duce represented the spiritual and political corruption of Europe, and in her mind, she was divinely called to stop him. On the morning of April 7th, 1926, Mussolini was scheduled to speak to a crowd after opening an international medical conference at the Campidoglio, Rome's ancient city hall. As he exited the building and greeted onlookers, Violet stepped forward from the throng. She pulled a small revolver from her coat and fired at close range. The bullet grazed Mussolini's nose, drawing blood but failing to cause serious harm. As she tried to fire a second time, her pistol jammed. The crowd, momentarily stunned, then surged forward, and Violet was quickly subdued. The scene was chaotic. Mussolini, ever the showman, refused to show fear. With his nose bandaged, he waved to the crowd and insisted on finishing his scheduled appearance. The Italian press soon hailed the incident as proof of the dictator's courage and resilience, turning the failed assassination into a propaganda victory. Violet, meanwhile, was dragged off by police and quickly identified as an Irish woman of noble birth. The Italian authorities, eager to avoid international complications and possibly sympathetic due to her obvious mental instability, opted not to prosecute her. Instead, they deported her to Britain. There, she was declared insane and committed to St. Andrew's Hospital in Northampton, where she would remain for the rest of her life, nearly 30 years. She died in obscurity in 1956, largely forgotten by history and abandoned by her family and government alike. Yet, Violet Gibson's story lingers as a haunting footnote in the history of fascism's rise. She was one of the very few people to directly challenge Mussolini with violence, and arguably she came closer than most to succeeding. Her act wasn't motivated by personal grievance or nationalist fervor, but by a deep, if troubled, moral conviction. In her own words, she believed she was acting to save Italy and the world. For decades, Violet was written off as a footnote, a mad woman with a pistol. But in recent years, her legacy has undergone reassessment. In Dublin, campaigns have been launched to honour her memory, including calls for a plaque in her birthplace on Marion Square. Historians and playwrights alike have revisited her life, not as a simple tale of madness, but as a complex story of conscience, courage, and the price of defiance. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Ireland's rich past. Please like and subscribe, and until next time, I'm Raymond Welsh. Slán go foil.